A goofy movie. A movie that definitely deserves a number that isn't really goofy. I think an 8 out of 10 is the perfect score for this movie. Now, what is it about? Well, first of all, a Goofy movie follows Goofy and his teenage son, Max, and they are drifting apart as Max tries to survive high school and he wants to impress this girl, Roxanne. While Goofy just wants to stay close to his kid and he's terrified of losing his son. And after Max gets into trouble for staging a wild performance at school, Goofy panics and decides the solution is to recreate a old father and son fishing trip. Now the problem, Max wants nothing more than to just stay at home and talk to Roxanne and just be a normal teenager. And what starts as a forced vacation quickly spirals into a wild road trip filled with disasters, Bigfoot encounters, campground chaos, a disastrous RV visit with Pete, and ultimately a desperate attempt by Max to reroute the entire trip to a Powerline concert. Underneath all the slapstick and definitely 90s energy is a surprising, raw story about communication, expectations, growing up, and how easy it is to misunderstand the people that we love most. So that's a pretty awesome story, really. And what are the positives for this movie? Well, first of all, it feels like it is a 90s time capsule that still feels timeless. Now, I've watched this movie at least a dozen times, and this movie screams 90s. I mean, the suburban setting, the slang, the oversized shirts, it's all there. But instead of feeling outdated, this movie actually feels warm and nostalgic. Absolutely awesome. Now, the writing, the humor, and the emotional core make it surprisingly timeless, even for people who didn't grow up with this type of movie. So, absolutely a 90s movie. And then, of course, Goofy is still goofy, but instead of just being slapstick and it all just being funny, this movie actually is goofy with real heart. There is great work in terms of vocal performances. Goofy is clumsy, he is ridiculous because Goofy is still Goofy. But in this movie, he's also scared, he's insecure, and oh my god, he's desperate to bond with his son Max. And the movie dares to even show Goofy as an actual parent. He isn't just a walking punchline, he is a dad trying his best, even when he has no idea what the right choice is at the moment. And this movie actually is a surprisingly complex father son dynamic. The relationship carries the whole movie, and that is also what makes this movie very heartfelt. Now, both characters are right and wrong in different ways. And, you can understand Max and you can definitely understand Goofy. And sometimes it's difficult to decide who is right and who is really wrong. I mean, Max wants to be independent, Goofy wants connection, but neither of them know how to communicate properly. And that tension builds and builds until eventually it snaps on a river, nonetheless. One of Disney's most underrated emotional moments, if you ask me. I mean, it is definitely messy and it feels pretty raw and real for a basically a comic movie, an animated movie. And I think, and that is something that I don't think often, the payoff of this movie actually feels earned. Now, that is an awesome thing to say about a movie. And then I think the best thing about this movie, of course, it is that it is heartfelt, but let's talk about the soundtrack. I mean, this soundtrack is absolutely awesome. It is by Tevin Campbell. The movie has this soundtrack called Stand Out, and it's genuinely and honestly one of the best songs I still listen to till this date. It's even in my workout playlist. It is absolutely awesome. And not only the soundtrack by Tevin Campbell, but I would even say all the songs in this movie are really good. There aren't any bad songs. I mean, what we get is After Today. We get an emotional duet with the song called Nobody Else But You by Goofy and Max. And the song After Today, just by Max, it feels a little bit like the movie Grease. It has all those elements in it. And yeah, all the songs are really great actually, but man, I can't state it enough. The Devin Campbell songs stand out. It's absolutely one of the best songs that I have in my playlists. It's absolutely awesome. Then, of course, we have the strong animation, and I would even say we have very good character work. The film's animation, it's nothing special, it's not groundbreaking, but I can say that it is extremely charming. It's colorful, it looks good. I mean, the characters move with exaggerated cartoony energy, especially Goofy, but you know, what is to expect from Goofy but that? And all the emotional scenes are played with surprising restraint. The backgrounds, like I said, the movie is colorful. The backgrounds are colorful without being overwhelming. And the road trip format lets the film shift locations often enough to stay visually engaging and impressive. And then let's talk about the humor. I mean, the humor it swings a little bit between silly and clever and just pure chaos. I mean, we have a Bigfoot scene, we have a disastrous campground dinner, we have the Possum Park nightmare, and then we have the amazing Powerline concert. I mean, whether you prefer slapstick or character-driven humor doesn't really matter. There is definitely something in this movie for everyone. Now, not all the jokes land perfectly well, but you know, most of the jokes land, and that is the most important thing when you do jokes, that most of the jokes land. Now, obviously, this isn't a masterpiece, but an 8 out of 10 is awesome. What are the negatives for this movie? What didn't I really like? Well, maybe a little bit the swinging in tone. You know, the movie jumps quickly between being really serious and emotional and loud and very slapsticky. I mean, the jumps are quick, but most of the time it works. So for me, it feels a little bit nitpicking. It isn't really problematic, but sometimes it feels a little bit abrupt, especially in the first part of the movie. And I think the main problem with this movie, um, if I have some problems with this movie, I would say are the side characters. They are really thin. I mean, we have Roxanne, we have Pete, we have PJ and Bobby, and I would say that Roxanne is sweet, but she's barely explored. We have Pete just being Pete. He's loud, pushy, and he feels like a very one-sided character. BJ and Bobby, they show up mainly for comedic beats, just you know, to be the comedian in the movie, you know, just to release a little bit of tension with the jokes. But they could have done much more with the side characters. All of them feel really unexplored and very thin. And I definitely think that is a little bit of a problem in the movie. Definitely Max and Goofy are well explored. They are well um, fleshed out, but the side characters really aren't. And yeah, you know, the world feels a little bit small because almost every character exists solely to reflect Max or Goofy, and that is a little bit of a problem. So yeah, and the other thing that I think is a little bit, you know, nitpicking maybe once again, but the emotional resolution at the end of the movie, it's really abrupt, really fast. You know, we get a resolution before the Powerline concert. It's strong, but it really happens fast. The concert itself, awesome, iconic. It's so big that it really overshadows the smaller father and son story for a moment. Not really a problem, but the final act of the movie, it does feel rushed. But then again, I have to say that even though it feels rushed, the story arcs are definitely complete and they feel earned. So that is a positive note on something that might be considered a little bit bad. So my final thoughts on this movie, a goofy movie definitely has its flaws, but the heart of this film is undeniable. It is quirky, but there is a lot of mix with nostalgia, sincerity, chaos, and genuinely heartfelt family dynamics. It may not have the epic scale of the movies like Aladdin and The Lion King, but in terms of pure emotional honesty, I think it stands very close to these types of movies. This movie absolutely has charm. It has a banging soundtrack, and I think maybe this is one of Disney's more underrated movies. I would say it's somewhat of a flawed classic, but for me, it's a classic nonetheless. So if you want to watch a movie that is enjoyable to watch, has some good jokes, is heartfelt, and overall just a good movie, then I would say a Goofy movie is definitely a movie that you should watch. So that's my take on this movie. That's my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think of this movie. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.